Hey everybody, and welcome back to Trekyards. I'm Captain Foley.
And I'm Connor Collins, and today, Stuart, as the title suggests, we're looking at references, and while Picard and Discovery may include little bits and bobs, Lower Decks is truly, well and truly in the Star Trek world. It incorporates as much elements as possible. As we've said a billion times before, just use the universe. Don't invent a new alien when you could use one that fits the bill. Don't invent this to be. Think about what's in the universe, use it, build upon it, it all adds to it. And this week had the obvious one, the Mugatos, or many different pronunciations was one of the jokes, but some very small references, and some we've seen before vaguely, but I want to highlight everything I saw this week in this graphic, as a lot of them are so integrated you might not even think they're references. So Stuart, what did you pick up that was a real standout of, boom, that's a reference, that's a link I love?
One of the very first things, obviously, besides the Mugato, obviously, as you said, was the Ambujitsu, how the episode starts with the Ambujitsu match and the uniforms. Perfect. Loved that.
Just as silly as ever.
They're just motocross bike gear. It's painted in TNG, and they haven't changed anything at all. That's just great.
And not played for laughs, not played for silly, it's just a thing, as it should be. They're quite striking outfits. It was a rather good, simple art design, considering. So is there anything in this graphic you didn't notice?
I didn't notice the Ferengi shuttle. I don't know where that is in the episode.
Yes, I thought that was gonna get pulled by. Yeah, the fact it's so subtle is again, people have called out. It's just a cartoon. Don't think about the details. That's a pretty flawless Ferengi shuttle in the background of a couple of frames. There's detail, guys. Give them the credit. Let's go left to right then. So you got obviously Ambujitsu. Next to that is obviously Ferengi, which is just a Ferengi, with obviously the whip and the skinned animal. Not great, but
Mariner makes a reference, or what are you, one of those throwback Last Outpost Ferengis? Have you not heard of Quark? Of course we've heard of Quark.
And definitely that vibe. Although wearing some of Quark's clothes, or give or take the same thing. Next to that is a Tholian web style fence, which I was grinning about because Tholians are obviously known for their force field tech, so why wouldn't you do that?
And it is a honeycomb pattern, but that's cool because if you watch any of our content on the Tholians, they have different web styles like globular, and you can so that's actually kind of neat. I never even really considered the similarities, but yeah, with the way the beams were presented, it definitely had the Tholian web vibe for sure. So yes.
I'd be shocked if it wasn't intentional, because if it was any other colour you wouldn't think that, but it's the exact same colour, the exact same vibe, etc. Top right, you've got clearly a reference to Leonardo da Vinci's flying machine from Voyager, which in itself reference to his real life work, and they already referenced Da Vinci in season 1, so it's a double reference.
Yeah, I didn't actually think about that one being linked to this Da Vinci, but that's interesting.
Same one that Janeway used. Like one weird scene in the Delta Quadrant with Da Vinci on a planet. Weird. And then middle left, obviously got Ferengi shuttle. Exactly what it says in the tin. To the right of that, past the Ferengi is Mariner back in the first contact uniform. Again, they throw them in now whenever they need to. Perfect. It's still a reference. Old uniforms. And then you need to talk about the one next to Mariner, to the right, because that was for a very short moment, but means a lot more than a short moment.
Yeah, that was just a pan across the mess hall, but that is a Kinzinti, which are great. They've been referenced in Picard. They've been referenced multiple times in Lower Decks now. They were shown in the animated series, in the Slaver Weapon episode. That's exactly how they looked in that episode. So Kinzinti are now part of Starfleet, which is interesting. Well, at least one is. I mean, it doesn't necessarily mean that they're a part of Starfleet, but, that was nice to see that. So
we get lots of the first in Starfleets, don't we? And this is obviously doubly special because the Xinti were invented for the Ringworld series by Larry Niven, and he wrote a Star Trek series episode. He was able to use them, so the licensing is a bit dodgy. So the fact they managed to obviously get the licensing successfully is a great step because they're really interesting. Obviously, I know them from that book series, so they're a cross franchise universal thing. It's very confusing, but cool.
One thing I would have liked to have seen, though, honestly, on the Kinzinti is something pink, like a pink sash or something, because they're wearing pink, and their ship is pink in the Slaver Weapon episode of the animated series.
Pink drink.
Okay, there you go. Yeah,
sorry.
Because the art director was colorblind, and he thought it was just a different shade of gray when he approved it. So, yeah, these tough animals that are now they're wearing pink. So that was a thing.
No, they just dried blood red. like dried and been in the sun too long. You know, that's how many people they've killed. The more vicious. I mean, that basically re-canonized like 7 animated series aliens at this point.
Yeah. Because there's quite a few in season 1. Yeah.
I mean, they keep throwing them. I mean, I'm assuming that's one of Mike's like mental plans, is just to re-canonize everything from the animated series because it's working, or just a reference in the reference of let's bring the animated things back to animated because that would be an expensive makeup obviously to do. Obviously, next to the Xindi is the Klingon knife. Small reference, but she's used that multiple times throughout the show. She's adept, and of course playing the Bishop game from Aliens. To the right of that is obviously a very faithful Denobulan.
Even the scare face, the starfish face. Yeah, it was awesome. We only saw that Phlox do that once. So that was a nice little callback, yeah. And
I mean, we did see Denobulans technically in season 1 in the background of that big planetscape shot, but I mean, that's minuscule. Really good to see them, even if there was because that alien race could have been literally anybody. So great they went with a canon race. And obviously down at the bottom left is Tendi. Now that is just Tendi, but she has a tricorder holster, which, if you noticed, guys, that throughout the show, it's a cartoon, obviously, so slight caveats, but they're often equipped with phasers and tricorders, but they pull them out of thin air. You forgive it, it's not the biggest deal. So it's really, really nice to see actually having a correct tricorder holster, and adds a lot of depth to the costume. I wish they had more phasers and holsters. I don't know if you clocked the holster as being a nice addition.
I did. I noticed Tendi when she was sitting in that exact pose. I'm like, that looks nice. They got to do that more often. That was what my brain said. So I'm glad you brought it up, actually. So.
And next is a Tellarite, looking a little bit unusual. Australian Tellarite.
Who's got 5 books about the Ferengi, or about the Mugato. Oh, wait a minute. He has only read 5 books. He doesn't actually write. Interesting, yeah. So I guess it's been canonized that Tellarite blood is purple now.
Yes, yeah, it would have to be. And so what do you think, because obviously Discovery altered the look of everyone a bit, what do you think of now having a mutton chop ponytail Tellarite versus the classical beard?
I didn't put together that it was a Tellarite, but I mean, now that you've mentioned it, the nose and the eyes, the way they're portrayed, are very Tellarite-like for what we've seen in Lower Decks so far. So I think it's interesting. Mix it up, make it, they're not all generic cut and like stamped out of the same mold. So yeah, I think it's great.
Do you think it's almost too far out of the mold, or just right on that edge?
It's right on the edge. I think it's just right there. So yeah, it's fine.
I think the fact that he was a quirky Australian added something though, and not argumentative, but clearly he's out of the mold.
Steve Irwin. I wish he would have been around a little bit longer to say a few more Steve Irwin things. But
yes, that was a bit of a throwaway joke that was a bit of a use of screen time that didn't need to be there. Should have been a bit more important, probably. Next, that is well, I'm assuming it's similar to Worf's programs on Enterprise D, where they wore these sorts of clothes and fought, training stuff, simple, easy.
Just wearing a gi from like karate, which is really cool. But yeah, it definitely has that unique style.
Now, please talk about the one that Rutherford's holding, because this I did not clock until like right at the end, because it's so fleeting. Talk about what happened there.
Yeah. As soon as I saw them walk in with it, I'm like, that's cool. It is the bamboo cannon that Kirk uses in Arena, but like, it's obviously not a cannon. Because I was like, okay, cool, they got a cannon, but then all of a sudden it's a projector. So it's like, how did they make that? Did they use, instead of like charcoal and diamonds and sulfur, did they use like silicon and gold they found to make some circuit boards and some processors? But no, it's probably just they shoved the tricorder in there. I don't know, it's just an odd choice, but interesting. It's a good visual for sure. So
yeah, my assumption is just a chill tricorder, but it's that's a thinking outside the box idea. Sure, why not? And then please finish out with Mugato. What were your thoughts on how they were presented in this episode?
Oh, wow. First of all, they make a point of saying that they found Mugato on a planet they're not indigenous to, which is great because it's not the same planet from Private Little War where we first see it in TOS. So that's fantastic. They reference its venom, which is great as well, but it's from a bite, just so you know, it's not from the spikes or anything like that. And actually, last night on my live, we got the Starfleet Medical Reference Manual, because there's a thing in there about Mugato bites, and it gives you all the symptoms and how to treat it. So we read that on my live last night because it's important to know about Mugato bites. They're very important. But honestly, I think they were presented fairly well, except for the one scene that went a little too far. But, you know, it is what it is. They're trying to get some more humor in there, and I think it just pushed that South Park humor a little bit too much for Lower Decks. I was kind of disappointed a little bit in the Lower Decks people with that one. And I'm by no means a prude. I'm by no means somebody that, like, doesn't like that kind of humor. So I just think it went a little too far for Lower Decks.
Yeah, they were kind of a means to an end sort of joke. But I thought, you know, like I said previously, why use another alien race? We can just use something that pre-exists, and they were reasonably well handled. You know, seeing more than one and properly realised is great. Definitely just very ape-like. You know, not too much depth beyond that. Although certainly at the end, they were clearly smart enough to go from being, we want, you know, the Ferengi are hurting us, to, nah, it's cool, they want to help us now, let's be chilling in you know, in trees. But it was a satisfying moment, and I appreciate that the way they pitched that scene briefly, that you felt the Ferengis genuinely want to help them because it's a good source of money. You know, why cheat when you can make money legally? So you didn't get the sense it'll be betrayed 10 years down the line. It's like, no, this will make more money and they'll be happy to do that. You know, hard work is not against their thing, and they just get to
There's probably really good money in doing a preserve, actually. You know, protecting these endangered species.
Well, I was blown away there was more than one. I thought that was implied, like, they're so rare, here's one. And they're like, oh, no, there's loads. It's like, oh, wow, okay, this is a massive deal. They're like, the you know, they've got the last reserves of them in the entire galaxy. But there you go, guys, a ton of references. Lots of varying degrees of subtle and non-subtle. Definitely most of them, except Jujutsu and the creatures, were just there, and you have to pick up on them. But they're like, how do we deepen the lore? I like it.
I guess another one that's not here is actually real quick is the bartender outfit. Very reminiscent of the servers and stuff we see on TNG and 10 Forward, the green uniform. Small little thing, but it's worth pointing out as well. Because I just was going to say, if there's anything you guys noticed that we haven't talked about, put it in the comments down below. We'd love to hear your thoughts. Yeah, I mean, that's a great way to help the channel. Comment, like the video, subscribe to the channel, click the notification bell icon. You know the routine, guys. And join us for the lives where you can let us know real time if we messed up, or if you've noticed something that we didn't, because we like to talk about it.
And of course, if you want to support us out directly, then Patreon is a super way. It's monthly, and any amount helps, as you guys know. And the only reason we can do this and keep doing it is by you guys' direct support, because YouTube does not add revenue very high. It hasn't for years, and we were there 6 years ago, so we know, we've seen the decline. We know. So Patreon's a great way. PayPal still, which is trekyards@hotmail.com. Whenever you can, that goes for show costs, or join the channel on YouTube, or Super Chat during our lives. All great ways, and if you do any one of them, it helps. If you do more than one, it helps even more. So thanks in advance, and if not, just tune in, and we'll see you next time.
That's right. So until then, I'm Captain Foley.
I'm Captain Combs.
We're Team Trekyards. See you guys.